Hello fellow Clashers, I'm Kyle Simon. It is time to clash. I'm so excited about this new update and I'm so excited about this new challenge, Zappies versus Hunter. Today we're going to go over best draft picks for this challenge so that you can make sure you have the best deck and get those 12 wins for yourself and ultimately earn that Hunter. Okay guys, before we jump into this, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we get in there. Now we do get this Hunter, which is an epic card. I'm kind of an exciting guy. I'm actually pretty excited about it. Let's go ahead and open up this chest. Hopefully we get some more Hunters, some more of those Zappies. Plenty of gold here. Leveling up those elite barbarians. We got some elixir collectors, minion horde, 16 hog riders. I'll donate those, get tons of gold, which would be great. Goblin hut. Barbarian hut, skeleton barrel, come on. Okay, it does not look like we are going to get any, well, we should get some epics. Let's see, come on. Okay, well, whatever. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some draft tips for this. I'm going to go ahead and go through my 12 win challenge and show you guys the cards that I drafted and also kind of talk about what is the best and maybe not the best decisions when it comes to drafting because you want to get there. You want to get that new Hunter because he's pretty cool. Now for this first match, the first draft, I had to choose between Zappies and the Hunter. Kind of a tough call. Honestly, I think that they're both pretty good in certain situations. I think that the Zappies are a little bit more situational than the Hunter is. I think the Hunter is better in majority of decks. I ended up picking Zappies first, mostly because they mostly intrigued me and I wanted to play around with them and see exactly how they felt. I think that the Hunter is probably the better pick in most cases, especially if it's the first card that you draw. Then, of course, later on, if you find a situation where you think that you need to choose between the two of them and you feel like Zappies might be better, go ahead and pick the Zappies. Like, it's going to be totally fine. Up next, we have the choice between Giant Skeleton and the Three Musketeers. That is not a hard decision at all. Three Musketeers are a win condition. They're a very solid win condition and kind of difficult to stop and take specific responses. And so they're definitely the better option. Now between the Hog Rider and the Lava Hound, I think that the Lava Hound is a pretty good win condition, and the Hog Rider did recently receive a nerf, but I didn't want both the heavy, expensive Three Musketeers and the Lava Hound because they're just so expensive, and so I decided to give the Lava Hound to my opponent so you'd have two expensive win conditions, and I went ahead and chose the Hog Rider. This situation, I think Archers and the Dark Goblin are both very good options. You probably couldn't go wrong with either one of them, and I don't actually remember what I did, but probably the Dark Goblin because I think that the Dark Goblin does require a little bit more of a specific response. Round 2, choice between the Spear Goblins and the Fire Spirits. I think Fire Spirits kind of put you in a little bit of a difficult situation as far as deck building goes. They're good and they can do some really, they can produce massive amounts of value, but I think the Spear Goblins are more overall better in a lot of different situations, so I went ahead with the Spear Goblins. Now in this situation, the log does counter the Spear Goblins as well as the Fire Spirits, so the log is the obvious choice in this situation. Next we have the Giant and the Lava Hound. I think that this is kind of a difficult situation. My opponent has the arrows, which can counter the Lava Hound pretty well, but also I also do have a little bit of anti-air there, and the Giant is also really good as well. I decided to go ahead and go with the Lava Hound in this situation. It's kind of a difficult, tough call for this specifically, but went with the Lava Hound just because it's a little bit heavier. It's easier to build up a kind of a push, and I did have those inexpensive Spear Goblins to kind of help out with that. Lastly, a choice between the Archers and the Rocket. I went ahead and selected the Archers because they do counter the Lava Hound, and that Rocket just isn't going to provide very much value against the cards that I've selected so far. Now the third match here. So we've got the choice between the Prince and then the Battle Ram. The Battle Ram is a more solid win condition, but the Prince did recently get a buff, so I was willing to risk it on the Prince and kind of see how that went with him. Also, the Prince does a really good job at countering the Battle Ram on your side of the arena, and so I felt like the Prince was probably a little bit of a better option. I ended up 3-crowning this guy, and that Prince played an important role in that. Now here I'm wanting to make sure that I have a better counter to the prince, and so I end up taking the spear goblins instead of the fire spirits. Once again, I don't think the fire spirits are that great of a card. They're great in some specific situations. Spear goblins are better overall around. This situation, I wanted a little bit of a heavier way to deal some damage to the tower, because I don't have a solid win condition right now, and my opponent does. So I went ahead and selected the rocket. Last choice is between the musketeer and the mini P.E.K.K.A. This was actually a little bit tough. I feel like both of them would have been good options, but I selected the mini P.E.K.K.A. because I have that counter to the mini P.E.K.K.A. with the spear goblins, so he is less likely to have a good counter to the mini P.E.K.K.A. and also because the mini P.E.K.K.A. does counter that battle ram really well as it counters the prince. So I really just kind of made sure that he did not have counters to the cards that I have in this match. Okay, now we have a choice for match number 4. We have a royal giant or a balloon. Tough call. I think that you'd probably be okay with either one at this point, not knowing what other cards are, but I think the Royal Giant does a little bit better job at dealing damage consistently, and the fact that we do have that Hunter in here, which is such a good counter to the Balloon, really means that I feel like the Royal Giant's a little bit better. Yes, that Hunter is good at taking out the Royal Giant as well, but not before that Royal Giant is going to deal some damage to the enemy tower. Next, we have the Archers or the Fire Spirits. Archers, I think, are the better option. They do counter those fire spirits, and then they also do help counter that balloon. Similar situation right here with the minions. Now, the fire spirits do counter the minions, but they do such a good job at countering the balloon. I felt like I couldn't pass that up. Plus, the 1 elixir skeletons don't offer very much value, even for just 1 elixir. Lastly, a choice between the Mega Minion and the Fireball. The Fireball is going to be a little bit more, do a better job at rounding out the deck because it's going to be a spell, but my opponent does already have those fire spirits, and fire spirits and the fireball kind of fulfill a similar role, and so giving him that fireball means that he basically has 2 cards that are exactly the same, and this isn't a deck that's like Fireball Bait or something like that. It's the opposite, where he has too much Fireball, and so giving him the Fireball hurts him, and taking the Mega Minion actually helps me as well, because now I have 2 or 3, well, really 2 very solid counters to his win condition, which is the balloon, and then those archers that are also a pretty good counter to that balloon. Here we are, match number 5. I've got a choice between the Zappies and the Hunter. Once again, like I said earlier, I think the Hunter is a little bit more solid of a choice in most situations. I went ahead with Zappies again because I had been given the Hunter a couple of times, and I wanted to keep trying to figure them out exactly. Now here we've got the Cannon Cart and the Prince. The Prince worked well for me in the past, and so I went ahead and selected the Prince this time, but the Cannon Cart does do a good job of countering the Prince, so honestly, probably would have been a better option to choose that Cannon Cart. But hey, what can you do? You win some, you lose some, and I still won this one, so it doesn't matter. Once again, Archers and Fire Spirits, go with the Archers. They're just more solid in a lot of different situations. Lastly, we've got the Ice Wizard and the Dark Goblin. In this situation, there's a lot of situations where I like the Dark Goblin more than the Ice Wizard, but I did want to choose that Ice Wizard, a little bit more tanky damage or tanky health to be able to kind of slow down that Hunter if I needed to, or to help with with his Cannon Cart or whatever. I think that I couldn't have gone wrong on this choice, but I felt like the Ice Wizard was just a good option, and it ended up working out okay. Cannon or Ice Spirit. I feel like the Cannon is, I mean, the Ice Spirit's really great for a lot of different reasons, but for this match where both of the cards that are guaranteed to be on the ground and are countered by the Cannon, I felt like Cannon was a good option, so I went ahead and selected the Cannon for this. Now we've got the Goblin Gang and the Ice Golem. So this is a little bit tough because I like the Goblin Gang a lot, but the Ice Golem also offers a lot of value in a bunch of different situations. Really great cards overall. I went with the Goblin Gang because I think that they're going to offer a little bit more utility as far as offense goes. And right now with the Cannon Cart or with the Cannon, I don't have any of that. Now between the arrows and the lightning, this is a little bit difficult because I don't have any real guaranteed way to deal damage to the enemy tower, but at the same time, the arrows do counter my Goblin Gang. I decided in this situation, because we don't have any cards drafted that are really hard countered by the lightning, to go with the arrows because that's going to give me a little bit more of an advantage. Now, this is actually really tough because the Executioner does counter the balloon, and if I give him the Executioner, he's going to be able to counter my balloon, and that's the only counter that I see that he has of the balloon. But at the same time, if I don't take the balloon, I don't know that I'm going to have a guaranteed win condition. And so, tough call, decided to go with the balloon on this because it's just going to, you need some type of guaranteed win condition. If I had already had a win condition, like a Hog Rider, Giant, Golem, Lava Hound, or whatever, I probably would have taken the Executioner, but I think this is the right call for this time. Okay, number 7, Zapper Fireball. The Fireball does a good job at countering both Zappies and the Hunter, and so Fireball's a little bit better, a solid option when I don't know what the rest of the cards are. I would have preferred for this to be the last draft out of the 4, but what can you do? Mega Knight versus or Musketeer, Mega Knight. Absolutely. Mega Knight is so strong. I don't know why I got this draft, but I'm glad that I did. This is, you could probably pick either one of these, but I feel like the Princess does a better job at supporting that Mega Knight, so I went ahead and went with the Princess. And then lastly, we have the Electro Wizard or the Ice Wizard. Electro Wizard offers more versatility on defense and offense than the Ice Wizard does, and it's a great pair with the Mega Knight, just in case they do have something like an Inferno Tower in there. Electro Wizard, almost always pick the Electro Wizard in a lot of situations. He's so good. He's been nerfed a few times, and he's still so good. Okay, once again, starting with Zappies or the Hunter. Once again, I think the Hunter's a little bit better, but once again, I selected Zappies. It's really hard to decide which one is better than the other. The Hunter does a good job at countering Zappies if he's up close, but the Zappies do a good job at countering the Hunter if they're far away, so it's a tough call. Hunter, I think, is overall better, but what do you do? For this situation, I went ahead and selected the Log. It counters the Spear Goblins, and it helps to counter the Zappies, so he's going to have one less counter to my Zappies, which is good. When it comes to picking between a Golem and a Giant, unless you have a lot of really expensive Elixir cards in your deck, the Golem is going to outpush the Giant. Giants are a medium-paced deck. Golems are a slow-paced deck, and slow typically beats medium, which typically beats fast, and fast typically beats slow. So that's but if you want more information on that, make sure you watch my Triangle Theory video on the strategy guide for Clash Royale. So Golem, definitely pick the Golem over the Giant. Lastly, the Wizard or the Ice Wizard. Now, I don't have a super great way to deal with his Hunter. And so in this situation, I actually selected the Wizard. I think that the Ice Wizard is a little bit better as far as he's cheaper, more versatile on defense and offense. He survives longer than the Wizard does in most situations. Doesn't die to Fireball and stuff. Neither does the Wizard, but it's close. But the Wizard just has that damage output that I felt that I needed to help support my Golem and get it to the tower. Okay, so next we have the Princess or the Spear Goblins. Princess counters the Spear Goblins, so she's better. Arrows counter the Princess, so I'm going to take the Arrows. Then we have a choice between the Bandit and the Tornado. Kind of an interesting decision. I actually chose the Bandit, not because I felt like the Bandit was going to be better in my deck, but because the Tornado is very similar to the Arrows, and I want a more balanced deck than that. And putting the Tornado in my opponent's deck with that Fireball in there is going to kind of throw off things. Tornado is an interesting spell card. You want it in your deck, but you have to have, for a deck that uses Tornado, you have to build around using a Tornado. And so using the Tornado in most situations, or just like in draft picks and things like that, isn't the greatest unless you know that your opponent is going to have something like the Hog Rider or the Miner. So Bandit, better option overall for this situation. Lastly, we have the choice between the Zappies and the Hunter. Now, the Zappies, I felt like were a little bit better for this deck to try and kind of, they're a counter to the Bandit, whereas the Bandit counters the Hunter. And so I decided to choose the Zappies in this situation. And it worked out really nicely. Here we have the Minion Horde and the Giant. This is actually an interesting decision, but the Giant is definitely the better option because he's a win condition, and the Minion Horde usually requires a deck built around making them work out and getting value there. Now, I do have that choice between the Hog Rider and the Balloon. If I choose the Balloon, then that's going to get countered by the Minion Horde, and I don't really want to do that, so I'm going to go ahead, and so I selected the Hog Rider in this situation rather than the Balloon because I didn't want to get countered like that. I was hoping for something in the future to be able to counter that Minion Horde. Here it is with that Fireball that can also help take care of balloons if it does get a little too close. Now this situation, I wanted something that was going to be able to quickly clear that Minion Horde fast and so just in case I did run out into a situation where I did not have the fireball, and so I went ahead and selected the witch for this. Here we've got win number 11. Choice between the zap and the lightning. I think zap is a little bit better at rounding out your deck. It's very versatile in more situations, and I had no idea what was going to be happening with the rest of these drafts. Once again, giant or minion horde. Chose the giant because he's a win condition, and I have zap, which doesn't completely counter the minion horde, but it does help a lot. All I need is just one other thing to really help take care of that minion horde, and I'm set. Next we do have the goblins or the guards. Tough decision, actually, because I hadn't messed around with the goblins or the guards after the balance changes. Goblins got a nerf, guards got a buff. So I'm not 100% sure exactly what to do. For this situation, I actually selected guards because I thought that they were going to be better in more since they had received that buff. Better to go with the buff card than the nerf card, am I right? Lastly, the Electro Wizard versus the Ice Wizard. Of course, the Electro Wizard, such a good option, and paired up with that Zap gets rid of those that minion horde. The Ice Wizard would have been an okay option, but I like the Electro Wizard because he's just so versatile in so many situations. Now let's go ahead and show you the winning match and the drafts for this match. Okay, Tombstone or the Spear Goblin Hut. Spear Goblin Hut did receive some action in the CCGS, which is really cool, but it does usually requires more of a deck built around making it work, whereas the Tombstone, it's a cheaper elixir card. It does a great job at stopping fast surprise pushes, even does help a lot even with really big tanks and stuff. So I went ahead and selected the Tombstone rather than that Spear Goblin Hut. Just offers a little bit more value in more situations. Now we've got, once again, Fire Spirits or the Dark Goblin. Dark Goblin's a more solid option in more situations. Now Lightning or Rocket. What I really wanted to do in this situation was I wanted to catch my opponent into a situation where I was able to lightning the Spear Goblin Hut, the tower, and another troop. I knew that if I could do that, that would be enough damage onto the tower. That'd be a damage to the tower, which is good, but also such a big elixir advantage. I'm basically setting myself up for victory right there. So I went ahead and selected the lightning, and plus the rocket is less likely to provide value in less likely in this situation to provide it. So now we have a choice between the Zappies and the Hunter. Now I know most times I've selected Zappies mostly in the earlier stages of my rounds because I just wanted to try Zappies out. I thought they were fun and cool. In this situation, I'm going to select Zappies as a calculated decision because what do I want to do? I want to catch that lightning on to his Spear Goblin Hut, his Hunter, and the tower, get rid of all three of them, or do damage to those two cards, and get a massive elixir advantage. So I went ahead and selected the Zappies, and it ends up working out really nicely. Let's go ahead and watch this final match for winning this challenge here. Now, he's got a golem in his deck. I obviously don't know that. First things first, he's going to end up placing down that Spear Goblin Hut right in the center of the map. Now, there we go, center of the map. I go ahead and select the Zappies, put them in the back because I don't want him to build up an advantage. I split them in the back mostly because I want to, force him to respawn on the other side and not provide value. Now he ends up putting his Witch on the opposite side of the tower than that Spear Goblin Hut. I ended up just going with that value anyways. I probably should have saved it for another situation rather than, reveal my secret, the trump card, the reason why I wanted to give him that rocket in the first place. But I decided to go with the value, take bite an elixir, and just kind of deals that damage to the tower. Now here he puts down that golem. Why did I place this Royal Giant? The Royal Giant typically is a medium-paced card. The Golem is a slow-paced card, so he's definitely got a slower deck. And so as a Royal Giant player, I need to counter him immediately after by placing down this Royal Giant so that he does not have Elixir to really defend against it. He's going to place down that Hunter right next to my Royal Giant, which is such a good use of that Hunter. He's going to just blast that Royal Giant with 690 damage per shot, which is insane. I placed down this Tombstone to try and do a little bit of additional damage to that golem, and here he has this flying machine, and I'm like, frick, I hate this flying machine. He had great positioning. I wanted to get rid of it, so I placed down this musketeer, but that fire spirit those fire spirits do end up helping to take care of it. I wait till the flying machine is locked onto my tower so that I can use those those spear goblins. He zaps them, and I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? So now he's got tons of damage onto my tower. I have this spear goblin, and I'm in a rough spot. I really, really am. He puts down that spear goblin hut, and so so really what I wanted to do is I wanted to do something so I can get that elixir advantage that I talked about earlier. I placed down this Royal Giant in the very far back because I knew that I had more elixir than he did, and that meant that he was going to have to try and go on the defense or focus on building up a push, which I feel like he made the better call going on the defense here, except he placed that witch in the middle. He gives me the thumbs up. I get tons of value with this lightning. Royal Giant is here, supported by that wizard, which is great. And here we've got the Zappies trying to help out. He ends up rocketing it all, and I'm like, oh shoot! I had such a big advantage, and I was so excited that I was going to take out his tower right there, and he rocketed it. So now I know that things are gonna be rough because he's gonna place down this golem at any moment, and he's gonna try and build up some type of a push. And once that happens, I know I have to try and get damage onto the tower. I have to play faster than he does. So here we've got this Royal Giant taking out this Spear Goblin Hunt. I actually underestimated the amount of health that my Royal Giant had and just let him die. I probably should have supported it, but I do end up placing down this wizard, which does a pretty good job at cleaning up. In here, he plays down that golem in the back, and so I know I need to give this everything that I've got. I place down these musketeers, the spear goblins. Here's the Royal Giant at the bridge. The Royal Giant's going to make it to that tower sooner. I've dropped this lightning, get rid of that spear goblin hut, do some damage onto the tower, and finish this off. I pull the golem to the side with that tombstone just in time to finish off the tower. Such a close match, and my heart was pounding because the other two losses that I had were exactly the same situation where my opponent drafted the golem and gave me the Royal Giant. That it puts you at a disadvantage because slow beats medium decks, but I did play this deck correctly. I played the deck faster than he was able to respond to, and it ended up working out really well. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. It was a blast to make. I hope that it actually helped you guys decide on drafts. Make sure you stay tuned on my channel for future videos. My plan is to release some strategy guides on not only Zappies, but also the Hunter. Kind of give you guys some good tips and suggestions on how to use them in decks that they might fit in with. For now, this is Kairos Time ticking by, and we will see you in the arena.